Hello Marvel fans, I'm David Craig.
And I'm Patrick Cremona.
And we're stuck here in the quantum realm with nothing better to do but talk about the new Ant-Man movie. And it's had a pretty mixed reception so far. Patrick, what did you make of it?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I think one of the reasons it's had this mixed reception is it's trying to do kind of a lot of things. But the previous Ant-Man films have been these more light-hearted adventures that have had not that much to do in terms of the kind of general furthering of the MCU, whereas this one has got a lot of responsibility in terms of really setting up Phase 5, introducing Kang the Conqueror, this major new villain. And I think the bits that this film did well are the kind of earlier stages where we're kind of just exploring the quantum realm, meeting a lot of wacky creatures, wacky characters, and it's kind of an old school sci-fi adventure. It does then get a bit weighed down by the kind of convoluted nature of the plot from there on in, and I think that is just to do with, you know, it's doing something that no Ant-Man film has done before, which is really setting up the future of the franchise.
Definitely. It sounds really wild, and I'm a huge Jonathan Majors fan. I thought that his cameo appearance at the end of Loki Season 1 was really, really promising. What did you think of his kind of evolution as Kang in this movie?
Well, yeah, as you say, it's interesting. This character is kind of a villain we've not really seen in the MCU before. We did see him, as you say, pop up in Loki. And in this film, I think one of the things that everyone has been able to agree on, even as you say that the reaction has been divisive, is that Jonathan Majors does give a really good performance in the film. And we learn a lot about this character, largely through flashback, I suppose. We learn about his previous relation with Janet Van Dyne when she was stuck in the quantum realm. And I think Jonathan Majors does that really well. He's got a lot of dialogue he's got to deliver, and he's got this really foreboding presence, quite scary. And it certainly kind of, yeah, it's good to see him get a big meaty role in the MCU, and it's going to be very exciting to see where it goes from here on out.
Well, definitely, because of course the highlight of any Marvel fan, of any Marvel film for the fans, is the post-credits scene. And I understand that this one has a pretty major one, which hints towards what's coming down the pipeline for Kang.
Well, a major one or a majorous one, but yes,
Very
yeah.
good.
Well, and full spoiler alert from here on out, because the end of the film, we see the Kang the Conqueror that we've met in this film is actually killed. He's booted into the core of his own ship as it's collapsing. And so at the end of the film, Scott is back in the real world. He seems to be quite calm about things, but he's plagued by something Kang said to him when he was stuck in the quantum realm, which was that something big was coming and no one was going to be safe. And so that's where we go to this post-credits scene and we meet the Council of Kang. So we see various different variants of the character led by Immortus. And he's kind of saying, oh, the exiled one, which is the one from this film, has been killed. And what he's really troubling him is the fact that the Avengers have been kind of meddling with the multiverse. And he says that risks ruining everything we've built. So he calls this massive meeting with loads of different Kang variants. It's literally a stadium worth of thousands of Jonathan Majors. And so this seems like this is what we're going to be seeing a lot of in the future films.
And it's really interesting as well because this is something taken directly from the comics. There is a storyline where you have this enormous council of Kangs and they're sort of going through the time stream and plucking out the sort of less successful versions of themselves. But of course what you get with a council of egotistical villains like this is a lot of infighting, and inevitably one Kang wants to become the dominant one, wants to take control. So I think potentially we could see that in future movies, Jonathan Majors perhaps getting into fights with himself. That would be very interesting to see. And sometimes versions of Kang can even find themselves in an uneasy alliance with the Avengers. A version of the character may have a bit of a conscience change and decide he doesn't approve of what his fellow Kangs are doing. One of the most prominent examples of this is a young version of Kang who goes by the pseudonym Iron Lad, and he's actually a card-carrying member of the Young Avengers, which is a team that has been heavily alluded to coming to live action at some point in the future. So definitely this character is going to have a huge role to play moving forward, and I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, and more immediately we should also talk about the second post-credits scene, which kind of sets up the second season of Loki, which is coming to Disney Plus later this year, and we see another variant of Kang called Victor Timely, in that it's kind of set at some point in the early 20th century, and So we see Tom Hiddleston as Loki. He looks very concerned when he sees Victor Timely kind of give this lecture. Owen Wilson as Mobius is a little less concerned, but Loki tells him that this really is something to fear. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays into the second season of Loki as well.
Yes, definitely excited for Loki Season 2 and to find out exactly what's going on in that strange alternate reality that Loki found himself in at the tail end of Season 1. But of course, we've got to address the elephant in the room, this idea of Marvel fatigue, which is sort of growing in prominence at the moment. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the latest MCU film to get a decidedly mixed response from fans and critics. And there is this idea that maybe the franchise is just losing steam, becoming a bit messy. I mean, what do you think, Patrick?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there was a feeling from some that maybe the wise idea would have been to take a brief kind of rest after Endgame and kind of, you know, stop bombarding us with so many films. And I think perhaps the issue at the moment is that there is so much to set up, and it feels like several films in a row have kind of been setting up various things without really kind of advancing things that much. So I think maybe now that we have properly seen Kang get set up, we've been introduced to the character properly, we've seen the Council of Kangs, maybe this will allow the franchise to kind of find its feet again. On the flip side of that, maybe the fact that all these variants is just going to confuse it even more. It's not got that kind of focus that Marvel had in its opening phases. So I think it is going to be interesting to see where we go from here. Are you feeling optimistic?
Oh, I wish I could say I was. I mean, you're talking to a die-hard Marvel fan. I was all about the first 3 phases, absolutely adored it. But I've got to say, these last couple of phases, the last kind of, I don't know, 6 films or whatever, it really has, it's been getting harder and harder to get excited about it because, as you say, the story is so unfocused. It feels like the carefully laid plans of the first 3 phases are just discarded to history, and now it's just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. So, you know, I'd love to see them pull it all together. I'd love to see those next 2 Avengers films really knock it out the park, but I've got to say, I'm skeptical. So what did you think of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania? Please do let us know, and head to radiotimes.com for all of your Marvel Cinematic Universe coverage. Thanks so much for watching today. I'm David Craig.
I'm Patrick Cremona.
And we got to get out of the quantum realm. Maybe over there. Should we try it over there? Let's check it out.